Hello everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here as we explore an important and timely topic. Today, we'll be discussing Unit 6, titled The Gender Divide, with a focus on reading. Over the next few minutes, we'll look into the differences and issues related to gender in various contexts. So, let's get started and see what insights we can uncover together. Now, let's take a look at the lesson objectives for today's session. First, we want to understand some comprehension questions about the passage we'll be discussing. This will help us grasp the main ideas and details more effectively. Next, we'll focus on finding specific information within the text, learning how to read carefully and accurately. Third, we aim to understand the meaning of new words correctly, which is essential for improving our vocabulary and overall understanding. Finally, we'll explore how communication differs between men and women, and how to differentiate these differences. These objectives will guide us through the lesson and help us see how all these skills connect to better communication. Let's take a closer look at this slide titled Scanning. You might notice the numbers from 2 down to 1, which could represent steps or stages in a process. Now the key questions here are, how many pictures are there, and how many paragraphs? These questions are designed to encourage you to analyze the content visually and textually. It's important to pay attention to these details because they help us understand the structure and focus of the passage. Finally, the slide asks, what is the title of the passage? This helps us connect the visual cues and questions back to the main idea or theme of the material we're studying. Overall, this slide emphasizes the importance of scanning, a quick way to gather key information efficiently, which is a crucial skill in reading and comprehension. Now, let's talk about skimming through conversations. You might notice that men and women often focus on different topics when they chat. For example, men's conversations tend to revolve around shared activities, hobbies, or practical issues. Women, on the other hand, often engage more in personal stories, relationships, and emotional sharing. This difference isn't just about what they talk about, but also how they connect and build understanding. Recognizing these patterns helps us see that communication styles can vary significantly, and understanding these differences is key to improving our interactions. So, as we move forward, keep in mind that these conversational themes reflect broader social and cultural influences, which are central to the overall theme of how we communicate. Women often see communication as a way to establish and deepen intimacy. It's more than just exchanging information. It's about connecting on a personal level. On the other hand, men tend to use communication primarily to accomplish a task or achieve a goal. They might focus on sharing specific information or solving a problem. So, what do women see as the purpose of communication? For many women, it's about building relationships and understanding each other better. They use conversation to create bonds and foster emotional closeness. And what about men? They often use language as a tool to convey facts, give instructions, or make decisions. It's more task-oriented and goal-driven. Understanding these different perspectives can really help us improve our communication. It reminds us that these differences aren't right or wrong. They're just different ways of approaching conversations. Recognizing this can help us be more empathetic and effective in our interactions, whether in personal or professional settings. Men often bond through shared activities, and this is a common way they build connections. When men participate in activities together, whether it's sports, hobbies, or even working on projects, it creates a natural environment for camaraderie to develop. These shared experiences help foster trust and understanding without the need for constant verbal communication. It's interesting to note that such activities often serve as a foundation for deeper relationships. This idea ties into the overall theme of how social bonds are formed and maintained, highlighting that different approaches work for different groups. So, in essence, engaging in shared activities is a key way men most likely bond with others, strengthening their social networks in a meaningful way. Let's take a moment to explore how men and women tend to communicate differently. Often, men talk about topics like sports, the economy, and facts. These conversations tend to focus on information, problem-solving, and shared interests that are more fact-oriented. On the other hand, women often focus their conversations on feelings, relationships, and people. Their discussions typically center around emotional connections, personal experiences, and social dynamics. Understanding these differences is important because it highlights how communication styles are shaped by different priorities and perspectives. Recognizing these patterns helps us appreciate the diversity in how people connect and express themselves. This understanding is a key part of the overall theme of our presentation, which is about improving communication and fostering better relationships across different social and cultural contexts. Women talk to explore problems, but men talk to solve problems. So, how do men and women approach problems differently? Well, often women see conversations as a way to understand and process their feelings and thoughts. They're seeking connection and empathy through dialogue. On the other hand, men tend to focus on finding solutions quickly, sometimes jumping straight to action. This difference can lead to misunderstandings if we're not aware of it. For example, a woman might just want to share what's bothering her, and it's not about fixing it right away. Meanwhile, a man might interpret that as him needing to come up with a solution immediately. Understanding these different approaches helps us communicate more effectively and avoid frustration. It ties into the overall theme of better understanding gender differences in communication styles. Recognizing whether someone is seeking connection or solutions can really improve our interactions. So, what has Sakura Kumi witnessed? Well, she saw her father not hearing a question that was asked, and the reason for that was because he was watching TV. This highlights how distractions like television can impact our attention and awareness. It's a simple but powerful example of how easily focus can be diverted, especially when we're engaged with screens. This observation ties into the broader theme of how modern distractions affect our daily interactions and communication. It reminds us to be mindful of how much our devices can inadvertently cause us to miss important moments or cues from the people around us. What causes men and women to communicate differently? Well, one of the main reasons is that male and female brains are wired differently. This means that the way we process information, interpret social cues, and even express ourselves can vary quite a bit based on these neural differences. These wiring differences influence how we approach conversations, what we prioritize in communication, and even how comfortable we feel sharing our thoughts. Recognizing this helps us understand why misunderstandings can happen and highlights the importance of being mindful and adaptable in our interactions. Overall, these biological distinctions are a key piece of why communication styles differ between men and women, and understanding them can really improve our relationships and teamwork. Girls are raised to recognize and be sensitive to the feelings of others. This means that from a young age, they are often encouraged to pay attention to how other people feel and to respond with empathy. It's a way of teaching them social skills that help them build strong relationships. When we ask how girls are raised, it's important to understand that this nurturing often emphasizes emotional awareness and caring behaviors. These lessons can shape how they view themselves and their interactions in the world. Recognizing this aspect helps us see how gender roles are constructed and how they influence personal development. It's a key part of understanding the broader themes of gender socialization and expectations that we're discussing today. This balance is what makes communication so rich and interesting. When men and women communicate effectively, it creates a dynamic where different perspectives and styles complement each other. So, what is the benefit of this balance? Well, it leads to more complete understanding, stronger relationships, and better problem solving. Because each gender brings unique strengths to the table, balancing these helps us connect more deeply and work together more effectively. Throughout this presentation, we've seen how these differences, when embraced, can really enhance our interactions. So, maintaining that balance isn't just about avoiding misunderstandings. It's about enriching our communication and fostering more meaningful connections. Let's explore how women and men tend to approach communication differently. Women often see communication as a way to build intimacy, to connect on a deeper level, to share feelings and strengthen relationships. Men, on the other hand, typically use communication to accomplish a specific task or goal, like solving a problem or exchanging information. Men also tend to bond through shared activities, playing sports, working on projects. These are their ways of forging connections. When it comes to conversations, women usually talk about feelings, relationships, and people. They're exploring and understanding emotions. Men, however, often discuss topics like sports, the economy, or facts, more about exchanging information or establishing status. Another key difference is the purpose behind their conversations. Women often talk to explore and understand problems, to seek empathy and support. Men, in contrast, tend to talk to solve problems, to find solutions and fix issues. It's important to recognize that these differences are rooted in how male and female brains are wired differently. Plus, from a young age, we are raised with different expectations and behaviors that shape how we communicate. Understanding these distinctions helps us appreciate why men and women sometimes seem to speak different languages, and can lead to better empathy and more effective communication overall. All right, let's take a look at the homework assignment. On this slide, we're referring to workbook page 283. Exercise I. This is a great opportunity to apply what we've learned today. I encourage you to carefully review the exercise and try to complete it thoroughly. The key points here are to understand the concepts we've discussed and see how they connect in practical scenarios. Remember, the goal is to reinforce your understanding and solidify your grasp of the material. Keep in mind how this exercise ties into the overall theme of the presentation. Meaningful application of the concepts is what truly makes the learning stick. So, take your time, think critically, and don't hesitate to revisit any parts of the content if needed. This practice will help you internalize the ideas and prepare you for future challenges.